Barber of the Poor People's Campaign. Doctor, how you feel this morning, man?
Man, I'm doing well. Like you, ready to get up, stay awoke, and fight every day.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And as always, it's a pleasure to have you. Where do you see things right now in terms of what's happening with this Supreme Court nomination and the impact it's having on our country? I know you tweeted something earlier that extreme partisan Supreme Court appointments have almost always been bad for civil rights.
Yeah, there's an article in Portside, and I sent it out because when way back some time ago, I think it was President Johnson did a rush through, and the guy was one of the worst on slavery. Abraham Lincoln did a rush through, and the person that he ended up pushing through was just bad. On civil rights measures post the end of the Civil War. Doc, there are a lot of factors to this thing before we even get to the ugliness, the violence of these sexual assault claims. And,
Mm-hmm.
we're getting ready to have a Supreme Court, Doc, where four of the appointees have been appointed by presidents that didn't win the popular vote.
Mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Right.
that's the first. That you think about that in a democracy, it's supposed to be one man, one woman, one vote. But we have had three times: Rutherford B. Hayes, George Bush, and now Trump. People who did not win the popular vote, but are sitting presidents in a so-called democracy. Secondly, as vile as these accusations are with sexual assault, Kavanaugh before this. Remember when Camilla Harris asked him where was he on the Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act? Was it settled law? He refused to answer her as
Right.
a black woman.
Right.
Right?
Right.
This guy, man, is bad. I mean, before this bad, he was assaulting environmental laws. He believed that the federal government could override local laws to protect our air, land, and water. He forced a woman that was captured by ICE to have a baby, so she
Mm-hmm.
couldn't have an abortion. He is on the side of corporations. I mean, you go down like he even said that if immigrants happen to be working, they're not eligible for labor rights. So-called undocumented people. Even though the Constitution says everybody in this country, every person, it doesn't say every citizen by design. It says every person has a right to equal protection under the law. That's the 14th Amendment. This guy was bad before these and now and all I say to folks is this, Mark. Just flip it over. Is Lindsey Graham's 15-year-old daughter and Kavanaugh is black or Latino?
Mm. Mm-hmm. It's over.
Now
It's
just flip that over in your mind for a second.
yeah. No, it's
Or
it's over.
that's one of or that's Eric Holder
Yeah.
before them,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, or somebody. I saw you got if this was an African American or a Latino, black or Latino man, lying is like he has lied, being accused by a white woman or a woman that was the daughter of any one of those senators. And when we saw Lindsey Graham, man, all that was a show. Lindsey did not want that prosecutor to ask Kavanaugh prosecutorial type questions. That's
Right.
why he blew
Right.
up the whole thing. I reclaim my time because he knew that this guy has a tendency to lie under oath. To lie. And he didn't want him to just lie. So they put on this show. They put on this act. And one thing Lindsay said, you could hear. Remember, he said this. Since I've been in politics, it's the worst thing in politics I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
Now think about that. He's saying that the man being questioned, not beaten up, just questioned, was worse than children being snatched at the border. Was worse than overturning the Voting Rights Act.
Mm-hmm.
Was worse than his own state flying the Confederate flag.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just the white man being questioned was worse than all of that. And you know what we're seeing, and you said it, Dr. Me, we're seeing white privilege worked out right before our eyes. Think about what they've said. He graduated number one his class from Yale. On the one hand, he graduated all this that he couldn't have done this, but on the other hand, oh, everybody was drinking and getting drunk at 16. No, they weren't.
No, they weren't. They weren't. But you know, we had a listener call earlier who was on our side, but complaining that we're too focused on the sexual assault, not the other injustices relevant to Kavanaugh. But I disagree. You've been saying it from the beginning. We've all been saying it from the beginning
That's
how
right.
problematic his nomination is. But I want to do this, Dr. Barber. You tweeted something, if I might, and I hope I'm not putting you in an awkward
No, it's
position.
fine.
You tweeted that you've had yourself, because
Yep.
we've heard from a lot of women callers about their experiences of sexual assault, but you mentioned you've had too, and I'm trying to get men to be more forthcoming about
Yep.
their experiences because men need to empathize and understand. Describe your situation. Are you willing to do
No,
that?
I'm
You've had two
fine.
experiences.
I'm
You wrote.
fine. Yeah. You can't, in fact of the matter is, Mark, you can't say, well, we focus too much on the other. We need to focus on all of it because this man, not only has the charges of assaulting this woman and the seriousness of that, you can't just dismiss that and say the other thing. You have to be able to focus on all of it. I had a situation when I was a kid where someone attempted to, assault me sexually when as a person who was asked to watch us at the house.
Mm-hmm.
And the saving grace in it, I was a big guy, and could kind of fight back. But for years, man, I didn't talk about that. I didn't tell my mama and daddy, nothing like that. The whole struggle with it. And then I had a situation where I was thumbing home one day from football practice, and a guy picked me up, and I'm just thumbing, what we do in the country, and it just didn't feel right. So then I told a lie. I said my house is right here. He thought, I thought you said that. And before I got out of the car, he tried to suggest he wanted to do some pretty vile things and whatnot. And again, just thanks to be the God, Doc, I knew how to hit the door, hit him, roll out the car, and he tried to hit me with the car. I never told it. I'm football. I'm a young man football player. It was shocking, man. And I can't tell you the actual day. I can tell you the place as it's seared in my memory from that. But I can't tell you the exact month, date, and time. But I know it happened. I know it happened. And so it's just, no, we can't say don't dismiss that and focus on the other. It's all of it, because if all of this is true, and I believe there's no reason to say that this woman was wrong. If it's true, then this guy has an assaultive, if I can make a word, personality, where he loves to dominate the underdog.
Right.
And that's dangerous.
Well,
You talk
if
about
we
having
define, if rape is what we know it to be defined as, Reverend Barber, abuse of power, then imagine the
that,
power he would abuse on the court in terms of all of
right,
our rights.
a lifetime appointment to abuse power,
Mm.
and to have abused power, and then get awarded power.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the level of arrogance that we can't even begin, to imagine. Now, I would agree with your caller that before this he was disqualified.
Yeah.
The whole process has been an abuse of power. I'll just say it. America has been raped. Let's just put that on the front. America has been politically assaulted and raped because they held a position up for 40 days. They abused power and kept Obama from appointing, his person. They have rushed through these candidates. Remember, you and I have talked about this same Judiciary Committee would not give two overly qualified black women even a hearing.
Yeah. That's right.
And instead pushed them away and passed out of committee a guy by the name of Thomas Ford of North Carolina, who is a known affiliate with white supremacists and neo-Nazi elements in our state, and a leading person in suppressing the vote. So, this whole process is a kind of an assault on the political
It
process.
is.
I think Cornell was called the gangsterization of our politics. But what's worse
Right.
about this is you getting ready to award a person who, in his rulings, have already shown that he believes in taking power and abusing the most vulnerable, whether they're immigrants or voting rights or labor unions or whatever. And now with all of this over him, you want to elevate him to give him more power to be abusive.
Yeah, yeah. Dr. Barber, when we talk next week, we're just about out of time. I won't do it now because I want to get an extended conversation. A lot of people,
Okay.
when we look at the Supreme Court, we think in the context of a lot of civil rights cases. We think of Roe, but almost 90. And I talked to Mark Morial about this. Almost 90% of what the court hears are business and corporate cases upholding the corporate and capitalist structure in America. So when we talk next week, I'd like for you to expound for us about how that upholds the stratification in America when it comes to rich and poor, how the court itself helps to keep people poor and
That's right.
disempowered, because I think people need, a lot of times we don't talk about the business and the economic and the monetary aspect of the court. So when you join us next week, I'd like for you to expound on that if you don't mind. Okay,
Let's do it. Again, I give you one phrase for your people to reread it.
please.
When you have a court that will treat corporations like people and people like things, we have a problem.
When you have a court that will be corporations like people and people like things, we have a problem. That's the quote of the day, folks. At Reverend Dr. Barber on Twitter. Love you, brother.
Love you, man, always.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having the courage to share your story as well. More men need to do that, y'all. And that's what I'm trying to get you to do. And we appreciate Reverend Barber's courage. If all minds are clear, it has been made plain.